Hello and welcome, family, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I'm just here with a warning, another warning, family. It is getting really serious, especially when you see the narrative, focusing so much on that. And what I'm talking about, of course, is how the UN has come out and warned that we are heading towards a hell on earth situation if the Ukraine war doesn't stop. And you can see the Ukraine war ain't stopping anytime soon. In fact, it's like we're in the season of war and we're getting deeper into the season of war. But before I get into that, special shout out to my Patreon family. Thank you so much for supporting us on that platform. We do have many more shows there and we do give a book a week. We recently actually launched a rare paper that looks at the role of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden in the 1886 Berlin Conference, because they try and make themselves like they're totally clean. So definitely check that out. And thanks to everyone who has followed our podcast, Wake Up Africa, by Dr. Mumbi Saraki, or with Dr. Mumbi Saraki, which is purely news. And then, of course, the Dr. Mumbi Show, the podcast edition. So we really, really thank you for your support there. We are actually going to start doing extensive shows on there that we can, delve deeper into some of the issues that we're not able to discuss here. So family, the reason I'm even sharing this is I hope that you're doing your preparations at your level. Whatever you can do, I hope you're gathering at least I hope you're stocking up on grain, which is not really even good for us, but I hope you started your vegetable garden. I hope you've stocked up on seeds. Remember, I was talking about the heirloom seeds. I'll leave a link to Amazon so you can find that, where they have like organic seeds for like 30 different or 36 or some are 32 different vegetables. I hope you at least have those, family. Please don't be a sitting duck in this situation. And it's crazy. We think globalization is coming, but when you look at what's happening with this global engineered food crisis, you can see that globalization has been here, that new one world order has been here. The fact that even Africa, we're affected here in Kenya, we're affected by grain in Ukraine and the war. And of course, it all has to do with capitalism. There's so many dimensions to this, but basically dozens of countries risk protests, riots, and political violence this year as food prices surge around the world. The head of the food aid branch of the United Nations said, and he was actually speaking World Food Program, basically. He was speaking in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. Terrible that he uttered these words there, you know what I mean? And he said the world faced frightening shortages that could destabilize countries that depend on wheat exports from Ukraine and Russia. How is it that in Kenya, in Africa, family, we're being affected, our food is being affected by what's going on in Ukraine? And the crazy thing is, there's a lot of especially Arab nations, I'm talking about Kenya now, where I think Qatar and maybe some other Arab nations have thousands of acres where they grow food and they literally ship it all to their nations. So, this guy was saying even before the Ukraine crisis, we were facing an unprecedented global food crisis because of COVID and fuel price increase. Then we thought it couldn't get any worse, but this war has been devastating. Straight from the horse's mouth. And it's revealed that Ukraine grows enough food every year to feed 400 million people, and it produces 42% of the world's sunflower oil. That's why sunflower was actually, I think it was even scarce or something, or there was some places that didn't even have it. And 16% of its maize and 9% of wheat. Can you imagine, family, that Somalia relies on Ukraine and Russia for all its wheat imports, while Egypt gets 80% of its grain from these two countries? We're already in that new world order. They created it quietly behind the scenes by shifting our diet and making these, corporate farming. Corporate farming has done so much damage, family. You should definitely, look into watching a documentary too, or just getting your head around the damage that's been done, and then using fertilizers and all this stuff. So not only is food going to be scarce, family, but a lot of the food that is available is really not fit for consumption in terms of just like the toxins and the modifications that have been made to it, like so many seedless different, you know, fruits, etc., etc. Can you imagine here in Kenya? We actually import oranges. So when you go to like the supermarket, they'll show you, you know, imported oranges, imported lemons, and that has totally killed our local market. Because we have oranges here, we have lemons here. The oranges may not be that nice yellow, all consistent, you know, they're that like green and yellow patched, you know. They may not be as sweet, but this is how we've been shifted. They've shifted our behavior. How can Somalia, oh my God, that's so terrible, man. Somalia relies totally and completely on Ukraine and Russia. And Egypt, 80%, you can imagine the rest of Africa. And, you know, the crazy thing is, like, they don't really... So they talked about how we're already seeing riots in Sri Lanka and protests in Tunisia, Pakistan, and Peru. And we've had destabilization take place in places like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Chad. This is only a sign of things to come. Well, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Chad were kicking out the French. But those are stories for other days. But family, this is really where the rubber meets the road. I don't know if you've ever heard that phrase before. Like, seriously, please, so many prophets, seers, motivational speakers, preppers have been talking about this for years now. I was late to the game. I started talking about this in 2020. Someone like Pastor Dowell, I don't know if you follow him. He's one of the few, you know, Hebrew Israelites or whatever that I follow. He started talking about this maybe 7 years ago, going off grid, starting to grow your food. And if you go to his channel, you'll see, I mean, free advertising. If you go to his channel, you'll see all this stuff of how they've prepared. Family, get yourself ready. When you go to the supermarket, I know things are so expensive, but try and get like 2 of everything. So if you're buying flour, try and save up so you can get 2, so you can store 1. Have a plan. Don't be caught unawares. Don't put your family in that situation. Please, family, heed this warning. And now it's even worse to be prepping because things are so expensive. But find a way. And really now look into like how to save on food. I know a lot of people, like here in Kenya, we buy they buy the small oil, the small this. Try and buy bigger quantities. Get together with families, put some money aside. I know it's getting trickier and trickier to do that. But this is a ticking time bomb. And the thing is, family, we here in Kenya are actually going into elections in August, and you can feel the tension. You can feel the tension. And you see, Africa was made food dependent. Our food and the subsistence farmers were totally destroyed because they couldn't even get any money for their produce. Everyone had a garden where they grew at least something, a small shamba, where they grew their kale, their skuma wiki, their spinach. That's no longer there. Our diet was totally different. We ate everything from the, beans. And I don't know, I heard something like Kenya, we had like 200 different varieties of beans or something crazy like that. A massive number. Let me know, how is it where you are? How are you preparing? Maybe we can come up with some ideas and I'll do this show again. But this was just like, please heed the warnings. Because by the time you're hearing the United Nations saying it, warning of a hell on earth situation, then it's almost too late. But I believe it's never late if you just at least take action. There's a show I did a couple of months ago where I said, if you start to take action, the universe will bend time for you. The universe will bend and extend time for you, family, because it's all about, we're spiritual beings. But the narrative that's coming right now, the next part of this script of the, controlled demolition of the Babylon system, of this world, so we can all move into a new world order. So like many nations and many people can literally become slaves, for real, is being told to you now by the architects of the New World Order. They're telling you frightening food shortages. And that's here in Mama Africa where so much is fertile, family. Start planting, even if it's just a few, onions, tomatoes. If you can't buy seeds, save those seeds. Hopefully you're still getting organic food where it will grow again. But the easiest thing, family, is to get into growing your own food. I've done a previous show on it. I'll attach it to this one, where I showed how you can even grow food within your house if you're in the city. Because the city is where it's going to get the worst, family. That's where sugar's really going to hit the fan. We're literally, you know that Janet Jackson song? We are literally in a race between education and catastrophe. So much has been done to create this situation, family. It's not just happening by accident. So even if you're starting late in the game, please start to do something. If you have land somewhere, go see how that land is, fence it if you can. It's amazing how many people just from Kenya alone have contacted me and have actually taken the last 2 years to build off-grid homes and are planting maize and beans and spinach and this and that. Not everyone has that privilege. So if you have that privilege and you haven't taken it, then really you have no one to blame but yourself. Because there's some who would love to prepare and yet they have no options. Family, I've talked about communities. There's so many young people that have gotten in touch with me and saying, yo, we're living literally in the slums. Like, where do we even think of coming together, creating community gardens, do research online. There's so much information on that. But try and prepare yourselves, family. It is so urgent. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for supporting the Dr. Mumbi Show. Thank you so much for subscribing to our, our podcast, family. Special shout out especially to all those who have sent love donations. I'll talk about that, give you a shout out in the next episode. This was just a warning. Please heed the warning. And remember, at the very least, prepare your hearts and be spiritually prepared, family. Clear out any kind of confusion in your head because it's about to get real. Tuko pamoja.